Hey, so tonight, it's not at all like last week. We survived through our conversation, our uncomfortable conversation on sex. And tonight, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. And I thought one of the greatest things that we can possibly talk about next to Jesus Christ is the state of Iowa. I'm just kidding. Iowa, I did spend some time growing up there. This is where corn is king. And it's funny, whenever I was growing up there, I thought, man, Iowa, I can't wait to get out, can't wait to get out. Then I would leave Iowa and I'd come back to visit. I'm like, this place is awesome. And then I would move back and winter would hit and I'm like, oh, I got to get out of here. Then I would leave and I would come back during the summer and be like, this place is awesome. And so this repeated itself on and on and on and on again. But I graduated from the University of Northern Iowa, which was a ways away, about an hour and a half almost from my town of Ames, Iowa, where my parents lived. And back in the day, to navigate took some ability. You know, we didn't have what we do right now. You know, you don't just sit there and say, this is where I am, use my current location, and type in the address, and boom, there you go. So it's not that bad. An hour and 37 minutes is not that bad. But back when I was in college, we didn't have this technology. What we had was, paper maps. This is the way to go. And so you'd have them, you'd get them, you would unfold them, and they would they'd look like this, and you're like, okay, so where am I? And they'd have a little key over here so you could find the cities, and then you'd find it over here. This is where you're supposed to be, and this is where you want to go. And you try to navigate your way around, and it's amazing I ever got any place. I mean, just to think about as a 16-year-old, even driving from Iowa down into Missouri by myself and trying to find hotels, all without cell phones. I mean, it's just crazy to think about, and I survived to talk about it. But after making the journey a few times from Cedar Falls back to Ames, in here I'll just give you that's Cedar Falls, and I'm trying to get to Ames, okay? So going from purple dot to purple dot, and I've got a lot of options here. And the first couple times I just followed, okay, take Highway 20, which is right up here, take Highway 20 over to 35 and on down. And that was fine and dandy. And then I thought, well, let me just try. What if I take Highway 63 down and then 96 over and then maybe down and then over? And that was kind of fun, but I started thinking, you know, all these towns that I go through, they're slowing me down. And so I started making my own routes home. And I knew enough to know this. I knew I needed to go south, and I knew I needed to go west. And I knew that if I hit Interstate 35, I needed then to go south. I always had to turn left onto that. But if I hit 30, I had to go ahead and turn right because I needed to go west. So I knew my boundaries. I knew anything in between those areas, I was good to go. And I found some incredible roads to drive on and made record time that totally dwarfed what they came up there. An hour and 37 minutes. I was able to do it in under an hour and 30. I can't confirm or deny that I might have followed the speed limit fully. But anyway, so I had my boundaries set up, so I just knew these are the places where I cannot go, but I knew where my end destination was. And I tell you that because when we're talking tonight about marriage roles of men and of women, there's going to probably be some of us who realize there's some character development that needs to happen. And it's good to have an idea, what are those boundaries? What areas, this is okay for me to go this direction, but if I hit too far here, I need to go south. If I go too far this way, I need to go west. And so we kind of need to understand what these things are that God is asking of us so that we're playing in between that. And your line of growth may look different than my line, may look different than your line. That's just how things go. But it's good to know what these boundaries are. And so tonight we're looking at roles in marriage, and you may be sitting there going, okay, Todd, let's think this is Junction, this is Grace Young Adults, we're not married. Why are we talking about this? And there's a good reason for it. We should have an idea of what godly marriage looks like. Because someday, probably at least one or two people in this room will someday be married, maybe more than that. And if you have no idea what that's supposed to look like, that's just going to be set up for kind of a large disaster. And the second reason I want us to talk about it is, here's the reality, is many of us haven't seen it modeled. You know, the divorce rate inside and outside the church, they're almost exactly the same. And so many of us have grown up in broken homes. Some of us have grown up that our parents stayed together, but man, it was not good. It was not a pretty thing. And so some of us, we've never actually seen what this is supposed to look like. And we take what we've experienced and we bring that into our future. So why not have a good idea of what it is that God is going to be asking of you should you ever get married? To have an idea, am I being conformed? Are these characteristics, are these traits, are these things that A, I'm okay with, and B, are they growing in me, and am I developing in these areas, or am I not? It's really kind of, wisdom would say, let's take a look at these things. Now, as we're going through this, there's potential that some people may be very offended, and I'm aware of that. And I'm okay with that. I want us to remember this. Roles don't define value. We have to keep this in mind. If my role looks different than your role, it does not mean that I am better or worse, or that you are better or worse. They're different roles. And different is okay. That does not equal your value. Something else gives you great value. And I want us to look at this. If you have your Bibles here, I want us to get to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. It's the first book of the Bible, so open up real close to the beginning, and you're going to be there. And Genesis chapter 1, I think somebody's got that out there. Genesis 1:27, when you're ready.
So God created mankind in the image of God. He created them, male and female. He created them.
Can you read that one more time?
So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them. Male and female, He created them.
Okay, created comes up there a whole lot, and mankind, or some of your translations will say man, and some people get really, they get really irritated by that. And if that's you, that's okay. Let me just walk you through here. In the Hebrew, Adam can come through and it can be used. That's what's being translated as man or mankind in this version here. It can be used of a collective group, meaning it can be a collective group of men and women. And here we can easily see that he is talking about men and women as it comes through. He created them. What was it, Enoch? I'm trying to remember. What was it? Male and what? Oh, okay. So this is really important because both, they were created in, what was that? There was, started with an I and ends in an image, right. And so whether you're male or female, first and foremost, before any role, before anything else, it is key for you and I to understand, to know that we bear the image of God. There are traces of it in you. If you're a believer, great. If you're not a believer, there's still traces, I believe, of that there. And because of that, because of your position and your love that God has given you by saying you're in my image, in my likeness, there is great dignity, great respect. You have a God who loves you wonderfully and massively and who is in hot pursuit of you, regardless of what your roles are. That's where your identity starts. If you begin to identify yourself purely by what your role is, you've already lost. We need to have the right starting position. Males and female bearing the image of God. Scripture's clear. Men and women are both highly, highly valued. So before, if you're already going like, well, I don't know about, I'm ready to fight, Todd. If that's where you are, just relax for a moment, breathe deep, and let's start at the same starting point. Okay? Rules don't define value. God does. And that really began making me think, how do you view and relate to yourself? I mean, do you just view yourself as, Do you view yourself as a mistake? Do you view yourself as unwanted, as unloved, as worthless? Do you have an accurate view of really who you are? And the accurate view of who you are is what God says about you. Remember our tree? We worked our way up, and this was actually the fall. We spent some time actually talking right in how do you relate with yourself? How do you view yourself? Who are you really? So I'm not going to go into it right now, but man, do you have an accurate view of who you are? Do you just stand in awe of the walking miracle that you are? Or are you like, Most of us just kind of eke our way through the day. We get our image and our self-worth based on what we do or roles that we have, and we do that to our detriment. We need to start with what is God's view of who you are, and you're highly valued. You are loved. Rules don't define you. God does. All right. Let's start with the men. The manly men. Husbands. What does God ask of husbands? Whew.
Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her.
Could you read that just one more time? Because I was still turning. I'm actually still in the process of getting over there to Ephesians chapter 5. Could you read that one more time?
Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her.
Husbands, love like Christ loved the church. Okay? I mean, really, are you men? Oh yeah, men. Are you grasping this? I mean, this is not a small thing. To love like Christ loved the church. Well, he was selfless. He was fully God and took on human flesh. That's incredible. He was giving, constantly doing miracles. And ultimately, he gave his life. I'm trying to think if there's ever a time that we read in Scripture where Jesus is walking to people and say, give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. There's a Samaritan woman, hey, could give me a cup of cold water. There's that, but he really was bringing that into a whole bigger dialogue. But, like, hey, I'll heal you, Tim, but only if you've got $19.95. You see him just continually giving when he's tired and exhausted, and yet people go, I know where he's going, and they meet him there. He's not like, I am so done with you. I'm exhausted. I've been healing you people and teaching all the time. I just came out here to be alone. Oh, go away. We don't see that in Jesus. We see him continually, selflessly giving and serving. Washing his disciples' feet. The Gentiles, they lord and they lord it over you. But man, I didn't come to be served, but to serve. This is your calling, to serve. This is not about you. This is tough. Because it's not about me. I like it when things are about me. I like it when it's about my comfort. I like it when it's about my wants. I like it when it's about whatever it is that I want to do. I like it when it's about what TV show I want to watch. I like it when it's about how I want to spend my money. I love it when it's all about me, 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 me. And yet my role is to not be me, 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 me. This is huge. Greek word here, it's interesting here. To have a warm regard for, an interest in another, cherish, have affection for, or love. Okay, regard. Just wanted to look at this a little bit closer here. A protective interest, a feeling of respect and affection. Okay, to have a warm regard for, an interest in, a feeling that accompanies or causes special attention to an object, having concern. Okay. In another, well, that's not me. Okay. Cherish, to hold dear, feel or show affection for. And I love this, to entertain or harbor in the mind deeply, resolutely. Having affection for, a feeling of liking and caring for someone, a tender attachment. So I kind of mush those things together and read it this way: to have and maintain. Okay? Let's just stop right there. To have and maintain. For how long? A week? A month? 2 months? To maintain whatever that word was back there, a long time. To have and maintain deep, committed, and constant thoughts where my mind is thinking about my spouse, about thinking of the other, of sitting there going, oh wow, I'm amazed by Erin. Man, I wonder what it is that she's doing right now. I know that her day was this and this and this, and I wonder how that meeting went for her. I wonder how she's doing with the kids as they've gotten home. I gotta call her. I gotta text her. I want to let her know I'm thinking about you. And guys, that's really easy to do when you're in the hunt mode. When you're like, I'm looking for a lady. Oh yeah, I'm thinking about you all the time. But then once they're into you, then you're like, To maintain that is something totally different. So to have and maintain deep, committed, and constant thoughts and feelings, it's not just, I love you, you're beautiful, good morning. Robotic. There's feeling, there's emotion in the middle of that as well. Towards another person, which relentlessly leads to selfless service. Many of us sit there and think, well, if we're there and a guy comes in, he's like, choose who I'm going to kill, I'd say kill me, because I'll serve that way. But I'm tired at the end of the day and there's dishes in the sink and I think, she can do it. It's those small things that are a challenge to look at and selflessly serve. Protection, encouragement, and the building up of another person. To have and maintain deep, committed, and constant thoughts and feelings towards another person, which relentlessly leads to selfless service, protection, encouragement, and the building up of another person. Husbands, do this to your wives. It's a high calling. That in and of itself should, for most men, make us go like, I don't know if marriage is what I'm into. If we're really honest. Because I'm still thinking it's all about me. I mean, I know in this setting, none of us would ever say that. None of us live that way at all. But if we're really honest, most of us, we like being about me, myself, and I. Or we turn around and say, I'll be about you so long as you're about me. But there's not a condition on here. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, so long as she's nice to you. There's not that condition. Husbands, love your wives so long as you get to always watch whatever sporting event you want to watch whenever you want to watch. Husbands, love your wives so long as you continue to maintain your poor habits of how you're searching the internet. Husbands, continue to love your wives. Well, that wouldn't be loving, would it? So husbands, continue to love your wives even if your wife has an issue with that. Husbands, continue to love your wives even if she just goes crazy. Husbands, continue to love your wives even if whatever happens. And many of us were like, well, come on, Todd. It's a high, high calling. But what else? I give you the answer, but let's go ahead. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 23.
For the husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior.
Oh, man. Man, it's getting intense now. Can you read that again? Because I'm going to stop you in the middle.
For the husband is the head of the wife.
Hold on. Wait a second. What? You didn't just say that. Can you do that again?
For the husband is the head of the wife.
Oh, it's go time. JT, let's go.
For the husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior.
Man, husbands are called to lead. What does that mean? Lead. Some of us, we think, well, it means I just decide everything. I do it. Be quiet. We're going to go see this movie now. No, you will not wear that shirt. You wear this shirt. I'm leading you now. Come, let's go. What? But that's, how did Christ lead? He served. There was a great amount of humility. He was intentional. He would ask questions. What is it that you want? I want a seat. Seeking people out. I love the story, we'll come back and talk to you, but of the man who was born blind, and he goes and he stands before the Pharisees, and his parents abandon, and everybody abandons him, and he gets thrown out, and Jesus, hearing of this, goes and seeks him out. He's intentional. It wasn't just haphazard the things that were going on. He's patient. I mean, can you imagine the number of times that he's trying to communicate to his disciples? They're going to go, they're going to kill me, man. They're going to kill me. Jesus, I'm sorry, we didn't hear what you were saying because who's greatest over here? Guys, seriously. I am the way, I'm the truth. Wait, with the what? We don't know where you're going. Can you just show us who God is? Have I not been with you so long? If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He's continually patient. He's asking questions. He's involved. He's a man of prayer. Not much of this is, woman, get me a beer now. Not much of this is, I know best, therefore I'm not going to talk to you at all and consider your opinion. And yet some of you are sitting there going, well, duh, Todd, but yet, couple after couple, I get to see who a job comes up and there's no conversation. I have decided we are now moving to Omaha, Nebraska. Wait, what? What? We are now going. It's best for us. I will lead. Go. You know, that's not how things work. So what does God ask of husbands? Love and lead. There is only one way that a man can fill this role properly. There's only one way. Only one way that a man can do this. Only one. And some of you macho men are like, well, I don't tell you about it, man. I'm like, I could do it like this way on Tuesday and on my left foot. I could do it. No, there's only one way. Can I have John 15:5 read, please?
I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing.
I'm sorry, apart from who, you can do what?
Apart from me, you can do nothing.
Do you have a red letter version there? Okay, is it in red? Because those are the really important words, right?
Those
you know,
are.
because Jesus is speaking this. So
Yep.
Jesus is the one who's speaking. He says, apart from Jesus, you can do
Nothing.
how much?
Nothing.
Okay, 0. Okay. The only way, the absolute only way that husbands can fulfill their duties, their role to love that selflessly and to lead so humbly and intentionally is if they themselves are totally dependent, totally submitted to Christ. It's the only way it works. And people will argue with me and say, well, no, I know people who've been married 50 years and they're not Christians and things are going very well and he serves her very well and that's fine and dandy, but it's not going to matter a hill of beans when you get to the other side of eternity. Christ wants to be smack dab in the middle of everything. And you might have remembered this chart from a couple times ago, but you had person and person, and the person wants to give somebody person, and God's this big wavy blue thing over here. And so I just kind of adapted this because we're familiar with it, is you have a husband, wife, who's supposed to give love, and he's supposed to give leadership. And yet, if he begins to give those squares away, he becomes empty, and all of a sudden he's like nervous because I gave you love, I have to have that back. And then becomes tension. And so the only way that he can continually give is if he's tapped in and he's pulling from God, and all of a sudden he's full, and then he's overflowing and shoots over. And now what the wife is actually getting is not really of the husband's best effort. What she's getting is Christ. And that's good. And that is your role as a husband, to let Christ love and lead your bride through you. Let me just say that again. Your role as a husband is to let Christ love and lead your bride through you. Love and lead. There's only one way for this to work. It's total dependence on Christ. Who then is actually loving and leading? Christ. Christ is the one who's right there, and he is leading through the husband. I'm a visual person, so maybe you are as well. I spent a lot of time on this. This is a guy, I guess, but he has no arms and no legs here, but that's okay. It's modern, whatever. So there he is. There you are, man. But if you're just left to your own devices, you're like, well, I don't know, this sounds good, let's go do this. Well, no, I don't know, let's go do this. I don't know, let's go do this. And so you're going all over the place. You're listening to what the world is saying is important, and so you're like, well, the most important thing for us, babe, is for us to have the biggest house, babe, so that everybody around me looks and thinks I'm awesome, babe. We're going to spend all of our money and go into major debt, babe, for this killer house, okay, babe? And she's like, well, babe, listen, we're going. And you get to the house, and all of a sudden there's these financial troubles, and you're like, babe, we have financial troubles, so we've got big problems. You know what we need to do? I was wrong with this whole big house thing. We need to go get like a tiny house. And so let's sell this one at a loss and go buy a tiny house, and then you're just kind of directionless, and you're just listening to what's the world saying is the thing, and you're going every which way, every which direction, and that makes it really hard for somebody to follow. Like, oh, we're going over here. No, we're going over here. No, we're going over here. No, wait, I'm getting dizzy. Can you just stop? Which way are we going? But when you bring Christ into the equation, when you have a man who, I know, his eyes are focus of total dependence of you're it. There's a transformation that happens. Did you see that? Don't miss the transformation, because unbeliever, something incredible happens. You're a new creation. And as a new creation with your eyes continually focused on Christ, you're only moving in one direction. But the direction that you're moving is the direction that Christ is leading. And so He is moving, you're following, but you're leading your spouse. But who's ultimately leading? It's Christ. Keep this in your mind as we get ready to go into the female role, okay? Who's actually leading? Christ. Well, what does God ask of wives? All right, oh, here we go. Ephesians chapter 5, 33.
However, let each one of you love his wife as himself.
Wait, I'm sorry. I have to start again because I thought we were moving on to the women, but there's something more for the men. They were supposed to hear something. There's a repeated theme. What was that?
However, let each one of you love his wife as himself.
Love. Okay, got it. Love his wife. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And let the wife see that she respects her husband.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Let the wife see that she respects her husband.
Okay. Respect. I gave you some answers already. How do you even go about doing that? I mean, have you really thought about that, women? Like, how do you really go about showing respect? You know? So here are just some ideas. Speaking positively about your husband in public. Including what you post. My husband finally got me flowers. My husband, he's usually so clueless, but today he finally got a clue. You have your conversations like, how are things going? Well, it's going good, but you know that Todd, he's not mechanically inclined, and you know, he does damage everywhere he goes. He means well, but he's just not really the sharpest tool in the shed. How do you speak and how do you show respect? One great way is through the power of your words. If there's tension and dispute, you don't take that and spill it into everybody else's lives. Well, you won't believe what Todd did again. Yeah, when you're talking with your parents, yeah, Mom, Todd blew it. Yeah, he said, oh, I know how to invest money. And he put all that we had in this investment in the tank. We're totally broke. He's such a loser. And yet, I would never say that. He's my hero. It happens all the time. How else? Building up with your words, acknowledging and saying thanks. Well, why should I say thanks? He doesn't say thanks to me. Well, we'll get to that in a second. This is a way for you to respect. Man, I love this. I love it. Erin does such a great job of both the above and then coming into this. She does a wonderful job of I could have been holed up in my office for 14 hours straight, and I can hear there's craziness going on, and I come out and she says, oh, I'm so proud of you. You work so incredibly hard. I don't know how you do it. And I'm feeling when I come out of the office, initially I'm feeling like I'm such a loser. This part of my life is sucking up so much time today, and all I want to do is be out here, and I want to help, and I want to be with her, and I feel so defeated, and so I come out of the office, and she has no idea. She's just being who she is, but she says, I'm so proud of you. I'm so thankful for what you're doing. I'm so thankful for how hard you work. She has no idea that in the middle of that she is lavishing respect and building me up in incredible ways. When she's talking to her friends or her parents on the phone, and, oh yeah, he's doing such a great job. He was talking the other day about this and this and this and this. She doesn't know that I'm eavesdropping, what, are you going to say something nice? But all the way through that, she's lavishing respect on me. How about how you behave around other men? Well, I'm just innocent. Was he flirting with me? Oh, it's no big deal. And how you dress. A lot of different things that you can be doing to respect your husband. Just a quick story, glasses up here, what does glasses have to do with this? But it was there to remind me of this, because it works in little things. So many times when we think about these things, we think of just the big things and we ignore the small things. But if we're not faithful in the small things, we're not going to be faithful in big things. I think somebody said that somewhere, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, if we're not faithful in the small things, it won't be the big things. And so yesterday, it's just been a crazy week, and so I'm like, hey, I have a moment I can take a shower. So I'm taking a shower, and then I can hear the phone ringing. I'm like, I know that it's Erin. But I'm like in the middle, I'll call her back. So I get done and hop out. Hey, what's going on? Did you listen to my voicemail? No, I just wanted to call because I think I know what this is about. Well, yes, there's glasses. I need some new glasses and a new prescription. And so what do I do? And so she have these options. Now, already I'm like, that's really cool. Thanks, babe, for not just saying, it's my money too. I'm going to spend X amount to get whatever I want, whatever, and you'll just like it. That she honored me and respected me enough to call and check in. What do you think? And then I think she was surprised, and you may be too, with my response, because there were options, an expensive option and a less expensive option. And you might have been surprised by my response of being, woman, I will now lead you. The cheaper option is always the way to go. No, babe, listen. Choose. Which do you like better? You're kind of committed to those things for a long time. They're going to be on your face. I want you to love them. Wow, I want you to love them too. Is it okay? Would you be willing to come down and maybe look? Do you want to? Code, gentlemen. Now, babe, I don't really care because it's going to look good on your face no matter what. But see, I had a lunch at noon, and this was about 11:45. And so how am I supposed to get all the way dressed, get things packed up, drive, stop in at the place, and then get to my lunch? So, I said, hey, can't do it. I'm so sorry. I trust your decision, and hung up. No! I'll be there. Move the lunch. Because what's more important? My wife. Yeah. Because I love her. So I show up, and then, option A, option B, option C, and after a while they all start kind of looking the same. Like, maybe I need new glasses because everything's looking the same, and but it came through, and it was just a wonderful thing for sitting there, and nobody else has any clue. They're just like, well, here's a guy who just showed up, but the heavens are rejoicing over the middle of that, and she's respecting me by bringing me into the conversation. I want your opinion. What should I do with these? What do you think is the wisest thing? Hey, I'm open with whatever. I really am. If I had an opinion that definitely we're not going to do the more expensive route, we're going to do this route. But, man, which do you like? I like these and I like these, but I also like those. And there you had love and respect all happening at the same time. And it was funny. I didn't consciously think, well, it's now my opportunity to love her. It was just a natural, because my mind is thinking. Phone rings. I know it has to be Erin, and I know she was going to go look at glasses. It has to be about glasses. I got to hustle. I got to hurry up. Because I love her, and I know this is important for her. And Erin go, well, I could do this, but I want to respect him. It's really kind of a cool thing. And it's those small things that ends up being how you handle the other ones. How about Colossians? Uh-oh, here we go. Respect. We kind of got off okay on that. Colossians chapter 3, verse 18.
Wives, submit to your husbands.
Uh-oh. I'm so sorry. Could you read that again?
Wives, submit to your husbands.
Well, golly gee. I don't know what I think about that. It's a good thing Scripture only mentions it one place, because it's only one place we could ignore it, right? We can totally ignore the rest of Ephesians if we wanted to back up to chapter 5 of Ephesians and read through there as well. No, it's all over the place. Submit or be subject to. Oh, man. Man, oh, man. This really aggravates some people. So you look it up, and here's really what it is. It's an intentional, willful recognition of an established order and showing the appropriate respect. Trick question, who wrote the Bible? God did. Yeah, we'll go with God. You can say, well, there's different authors, but he's moving. It's God who's moving. And so, is this Todd's opinion? No. This is God revealing his opinion. And so when you're like, I hate that idea, I reject that idea, I want nothing to do with that, Todd, you are so narrow-minded, that's fine. And I'm going to say, well, but I'm not the one who wrote it. And I'm not the one who established these roles. And as he established those roles, what he's asking you to do is say, okay, well, maybe I don't like it, but you established it, God, and therefore I trust you. And while it may be uncomfortable for me, it's your glory that I'm ultimately after, and I know that this doesn't define me, doesn't define my value, because I carry the image of God with me. Okay. Your roles do not define your value. I want to take a little leap here. Genesis chapter 2, verse 20. You don't have to turn there, it's right here for you. The man gave names to all the cattle and to the birds of the sky and to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not found a helper suitable for him. And many people are like, helper? Hello? Anything you can do, I can do better. Helper? Helper? That is such a demeaning and weak word. And if that's your thought, hold your thought, because it doesn't define, again, your value. Helper doesn't. But if you were to turn to Exodus 18:44, Deuteronomy 33:7, or 33:29, or Psalm 75, or Psalm 121:2, or Hosea 13:9, and a multitude of other verses, this exact same word, helper, is used, and it's used to describe God Almighty. How weak of a word is this? If God says, that is what I am, this is not a weak word. It's not a demeaning word. Well, Todd, that was not the word submit. I understand, but I wanted you to understand from the Old Testament, this is not a weak word, and you shouldn't be offended by this. He's calling a very, very, very high calling to be God-like, to image Him, because He is a helper. Well, it doesn't talk about this whole submit thing. That's a totally different thing. You're right. It's a different word. You're correct. Who else lived a life of submission? Somebody have Philippians 2:8? If you're in Ephesians, just flip over a couple of pages. If you don't, I've got it. Let me just go ahead and read this to you. He's talking about Christ here. Christ being found in the appearance of man, He, Christ, humbled Himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. If you were to go to the Luke one, you see Jesus praying in the garden, God, if there's any other way than the cross, I don't want to go. It's going to hurt. But nevertheless, not my will, your will. I am submitted to what you would have me do. So the Old Testament uses helper, and yet He uses that to define Himself, not a weak word. The New Testament, He comes and says submit, and yet He does the exact same thing. Who? Christ. Is He lesser because of His submission? Is He just a really lowly, worthless individual that we just despise? The whole world is coming to Him. These words are strong, and there's an amazing amount of dignity that's in the middle of these words, and yet we have skewed them around because we have begun to think that value is based on roles. That's why I started back there. We define ourselves, well, my role is to submit, that means I'm lesser. No. How God has made you, that's the role He's called you into. Well, I don't like it. Well, I understand, but remember, is life just about you? Well, yes. No. Let's back this up. You were created to image and reflect who He is. He is helper. He submits. But I don't like it. Okay, I understand. Because there's only one way that a woman can fill this role properly. You're going to be amazed at the verse I'm going to right now. John 15:5, I think we've read it before. Does anybody have that verse? No? Anybody know it? Apart from me, I'm the vine, you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing. The only way that you, as a female, can really fill this role in a way that brings God great glory is not you trying hard, but letting Christ work in and through you. Total dependence on Christ. Oh my goodness! Here's this chart flowy thing again, and person to person, but now it's the wife on this side and the husband. If she wants to give help or submission or whatever it may be, she tries from her own resources, there it goes, it's gone, and now I'm mad. Okay, but tapped in to God, fills up, and now his life is overflowing into the husband who really is submitting. It's Christ. His active life in you is leading you to fulfill this role. And who are you submitting to anyway? Remember? Do you remember the man? Christ. You're really submitting to Christ. Well, my husband doesn't act that way. Choose wisely, ladies and gentlemen. Choose wisely. Now, I'm going to tell you just a quick story. So I was at Bible school, and I This is where you had to like fight for because we didn't have cell phones. There was like one pay phone. And during chapel, there's all these people here, and you're like, man, I got to make a phone call. I got to get there. And then they pray, and amen. And like you're sprinting out the door because you got to beat everybody else to the one pay phone. So I got to the pay phone, and I'm having a conversation with a friend of mine who is very much anti-God, does not want anything to do with him, and is very much like, submit, it's go time. Let me get my brass knuckles out. Let me just pummel you, okay? And so we were talking, though, about some spiritual stuff, and she was like, yeah, never. That's so narrow-minded, blah, 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 and just goes off me. So I said, just stop for a moment. Can I help put this in context? Yeah, fine. Okay. Let's say that you're married, and the man that you're married to, when you were dating, he continually was about serving you. He was always thinking about you. He was always concerned with you. He always wanted your insight and your opinion. When decisions would come up with the entire process, he was always saying, like, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Oh, I've not thought about that. That's a good idea. And there was always dialogue that was going on. And then you got engaged, and that continued. And all the way throughout your marriage, that just continued. He was actively pursuing you, and you know that every decision that is being made, he's not doing it out of, this is what's best for me, but he's thinking, our family, my wife, how is this going to impact her before I do anything? How does that impact her? And let's say that you know this, you've had years of this, and all of a sudden a job offer comes up, and you guys dialogue about it, and the job offer is going to require you guys to move to Tennessee, or you can stay in Iowa. And you think you want to stay in Iowa, and he thinks you should go to Tennessee, and you dialogue back and forth. Why do you think this? I think of this. And why do you think this? What about this? What about? And you have these dialogues back and forth. And at the end of that time, he sits there and he comes to you and says, listen, I know you don't think this is the right thing to do, but I really do think that because of A, B, C, and D, and how this is going to benefit us as a couple, but really more so I can see it helping even you and your growth there. Would you be willing to go? And she said, well, yeah, of course. I said, that's all that we're talking about. The problem is so few men lead and love well. That's why submission is such a hard thing. And that's the truth. So choose wisely. Most of us, we just look at the exterior. And as we're looking at the exterior, we forget that will change. And we ignore things that are going on underneath. And then we wonder, how did I get here? I want to finish up here looking at just a quick recap. Husbands, just in case you missed it, because there was 2 words, love and lead. John 15:5, the only way that can be done is through total dependence on Christ. And this is not a one-time thing like, I depend on you, and then you go do your own thing. It's a daily choice of waking up and saying, this is not about me today. This is about you, Lord. This is not about me. This is about you and your glory. Submission to Christ, looking for his glory. Women, respect and submit. John 15, total dependence, submission to Christ and glory. I want us just to look here for a second, because sometimes people will tell me, well, women have it harder than men. Or, men have it harder than women. How stupid of a question. The only way they can carry out the roles is to be submitted to Christ. You're telling me that it's harder for you to submit to Christ than it is for me to submit to Christ? Because this isn't just about leading and submitting. This is about him submitting, about you submitting of every area of your life is laid open and bare. When he says, you're prideful, you wrestle with that. You don't run away. You say, you're right, you are God, and I am wrong. Lord, help me. You're addicted to this. You spend your money selfishly. Well, no, I don't. That you actually wrestle with those things. Both people are having to submit to Christ. And you want to tell me who has it harder? You're approaching this the wrong way. Because if you think it's about what you have to do, you've already lost. It's your abilities you're relying on, not on Christ. That's how this all doesn't work out. That's why it's filled with grace and not about works. Does that make sense? I mean, they're the same. It's just Christ will manifest himself in a different way. But so how can you, if you want to look and see, here it is. I just have some tips for you, because otherwise we're like, that's just pie in the sky later on. So how to examine these things in a dating relationship. Love and lead. If you're looking like, is this person, is he a lover, and is he going to love and lead me well? Let me just look at a few things. We're going to fly through these. Does how he live encourage you in your walk with Christ? Not does he send you a little verse, but just how he lives, how he operates. As you get to know him, do you sit there and you find yourself going, oh my goodness, Christ is oozing out of him, and I can't help but I see him giving of his time and his resources. I just find myself, I want to give him my time and resources. Does how he lived, does that have that natural byproduct on you? Well, sure, yeah, sure. Can you give specific examples? Can you really? Give me specific examples. Is he sharing, like, does he come through, and these would just be some things, like, hey, when Aaron and I, we were dating from Chile and Texas, it's a long way, and yet in those conversations, what I loved about that would be, I was reading the other day in this. I was reading in John, I was reading this. Man, I've really been challenged on this. God is just really working on me in this. And I'm not doing that trying to earn brownie points. I'm just like, this is who I am. And Aaron's doing the same thing, and it just was a really good thing. How about when he talks about his day? Does he ever mention Christ impacting his motivations or his choices? I got out of work a little bit early, and I was driving home, and I needed gas, so I stopped to get gas, and I was just sitting there as I was pumping gas. I was thinking about how good God is, and it was crazy as I was thinking about how awesome he is and how much he's given me. I noticed that there was a lady who her credit card wasn't working in the machine, and she just looked really distraught, and God just really had my heart that I was supposed to pay for her gas. And man, money is tight, but God was doing something in me. And so, babe, we can't actually go out. I'm so sorry. I can't take you out to dinner tomorrow night because I paid for her tank of gas. Because God was just letting me know that more important than our food, like a fancy dinner, more important was to bless this woman. You ever have conversations like that? My boss came through and he said some things to me. I just was so mad. And all I wanted to do was I stormed out of the office. I threw things down. I went and told my coworkers what a big meanie pants he was. Or we had a hard meeting and my boss said some things that were really hurtful to me. Man, I could feel the anger welling up, and yet I began to think about Christ. He just prompted my heart of that. I'm to love him. I'm to love her. Are those the type of conversations you're having? If not, it's not going to change once you say I do. How about, is he actively and joyfully serving others? How? Well, he, when he was younger, he used to mow the yard for his grandma 15 years ago. Oh, cool. What about now? Well, he hasn't had opportunity. There's not a whole lot of need. I'm sorry, what? Warning. If God is only discussed in theories, for example, does pray to God even matter? Okay. All your conversations, we talk about God all the time. Well, is the Bible even really true? Well, we don't really know who wrote Hebrews. Well, and all your conversations are just about is God really any better than another God? If this is the extent of the depth of the faith that is coming there, is that someone that you really want to spend the rest of your life following? Or are those conversations, man, I gotta let you know, God he's challenging me with my possessions. My money, he's just really letting me know my money's not my money, it's his money, but I've been spending it so foolishly, and it hurts. Babe, it hurts. Because I don't want to give any money away, but he's convicted me. That's a much deeper and more awesome conversation than, do you think that God could make a rock that was so heavy that he couldn't lift? Let's explore that thought. And it's okay to have some of those conversations, but if that's it, it's just this theory thing and none of this transformation that's actually happening, I would count that as a huge red flag, because if he's not actually submitting to Christ and allowing him to lead him now, who are you submitting to? Is he pursuing Christ? No, he's probably pursuing himself. So now who are you submitting to? Him. And his agenda. Well, his agenda is so good and pure and right. It will be wonderful because he's a hunk of a dude. Okay. I challenge you, if Christ is massively important to you, Does how he live encourages you? Let me go. Yeah. Does he ask questions and actively listen, or only when you first started to date? Does he sacrificially serve? Does he, how the dates you go out on, is it all about him? Well, where do you want to go? That doesn't sound good. I really want a steak. Okay. Well, where do you want to go? I don't even know why I'm asking, because we're going to go have pizza. I don't even know why I'm asking, the use of his time. Does he seek out your insight and other people's insights? Is he actively like, man, I really don't know what to do here. What do you think? Because if he's not asking now, he's not going to ask later. And if he's not seeking anybody else's advice, there's huge issues there as well. And maybe, oh yeah, he seeks it out, but he's like, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do anyway. I don't care what you say. My mind's made up. Huh. Jesus, you want me to do? No. I've counseled. I do whatever I want to go do. I'm going this way. Choose wisely. Dating really is a time for clarity. And as you get that clarity, then move into intimacy. Start trying to get clarity. Is this the person that I want to follow and willfully put myself underneath? Is he willing to make a decision? So many guys are so passive. I don't know where you want to eat. Whatever you want. Whatever. We just deflect and deflect. I don't care. That sounds great. Do you want to go out? I don't know. Do you? Whatever. I don't know. Are we free for dinner tomorrow? I don't know. Are we? Maybe. You laugh. Or is he a dictator? Run. Because it's not going to change. How about respect and submit? What are some things you could be looking for, gentlemen, as you are looking for clarity? Does she live, how she live encourage you in your walk with Christ? Well, Todd, this just sounds really similar to what you just read. Did you forget to do the slides? Were you tired or something? No, listen, no. Do you remember the two squares? Do you remember John 15:5? Do you remember this is all about submission to Christ? And if the person is not individually submitted to Christ and does not have just this passionate walk after Christ right now, you're going to be getting that person's best. And that person's best is far less than Christ and what he can offer you in and through that person. I love that about Aaron. I love that. It was so clear when people say, so you're on the eHarmony thing and you're going to be moving to College Station. What is it so great about Aaron? I'm so glad you asked. The way that Aaron loves God and loves other people is so incredible. It makes me want to do those two things even more. I loved it that I could say it that succinctly. I love it that I could do that. And when we sit down and talk with dating couples or engaged couples, what do you love about the other person? And we're listening. Well, they're pretty. Okay, cool. What else? Well, they just make me feel warm. Okay, awesome. What else? Well, I think they're kind of smart sometimes. Okay, what else? They said yes. Not just once, but 3 times over. Oh. Can she be specific? Is she sharing what she's reading? She mentioned how Christ is impacting in her motivations and choices throughout the day. Actively and joyfully serving others, or she's so consumed just on you? How? Well, you don't understand how it's just a busy time. Oh, okay. Okay. If she only discusses God in theory, if these are the types of things, we don't have to talk. You're always talking about that God stuff. That's just good for you. It's good for you. I'd get on my horse and I would be gone. If she isn't embracing God's authority now, ... what do you think she's going to do to the authority that you're supposed to have? Is there constant tension with authority? My parents, they just never understood me. Okay. My boss just is so unreasonable. Oh, okay. My teachers, they just ask so much of me. It's horrible. Everybody's against me. I don't like what they're doing. They're not smart. Is there always tension with authority? Because if there is, hello, if you're supposed to be an authority, what do you think is going to follow? Past behavior predicts future behavior. How does she speak about people in authority? Does she seek insight from you with life decisions? Well, no. Okay. That sounds like somebody who's going to be follow. Yeah, let's be a team. Let's work together. Does she express herself in areas where she doesn't agree? And does she do that with kindness? So is she willing? There are some people who are like, oh, I don't agree, but I'm not going to say anything because they should just know. Wait, what? People should just know. It's so obvious. How can we know? You haven't expressed your thoughts. Well, they should just know. Say that again. They should just know. How? Or, I don't agree, and you're the stupidest person I've ever seen. That's the dumbest idea I've ever seen. Why do you even have the title of boss? Is it constant, like, tension, very abrasive? Have fun. Does she express gratitude for what you do? Not only to you, but to others? It's just a thankful person. Wrapping it up here, roles, again, they don't define you. It doesn't define you. And if you think you're defined by your roles, stop, drop and roll. Stop and understand the truth. Image of God. Massively loved. Of high value, that so much so that he sent his son to pay the price. It was not his, it was yours. The penalty was yours, but he paid it for you. And only by believing your sins are washed away because of his sacrifice. That's incredible. And only by believing then there's eternal security. And even if you choose to make poor decisions from that point forward, he still loves. That's incredible. And men, that's how you're supposed to love your wife. Jesus lost his reputation. He looked horrible to everybody else because of the church's whoopsies. Are you willing to lose your reputation over your wife's mistakes? Are you so committed and so loving, like, yeah, she made a mistake, and so people would begin to say, well, his wife did this, and they're gonna, or you just start distancing yourself and you start bad-mouthing her? I mean, it's an incredible love that he has. Leading and submitting are both rooted in submission to Christ. Don't miss that. Examine the other person closely. I do want to show you just one fast story because I think it's important. I think it's important. When I was in college, I was dating a gal, and I was just one of those guys that I always thought I was a good guy, and I would go from dating a girl, and then, I really, really like you, okay, I gotta go. And then I would quickly date another girl, and then I really, really like you, and find another girl to date. So I was always kind of just jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship, and I didn't know any better. I didn't know that probably the real issue was me and not them. But I remember after tennis practice, I would then go and get some, in the training room, get stretched out and some heating stuff done, and then being the not smart athlete that I was, I'm like, I want to go play some basketball since I'm all cooled off. Anyway, so I'd go play these pickup games of basketball, and I'd play, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I would have a date set up, and I was supposed to be picking up this girl at, let's say, 6 o'clock. And I would look at my watch. I'd be like, well, it's 5 o'clock right now, so if I left right now, I can be home by 5:15. I can take a shower, be ready, and I can be at her place by like 5:50. That's early, right? So one more game. So I play another game. Like, well, now it's 5:15, and so if I leave right now and I hurry, I can be at her house at 6, right when I'm supposed to be. But I'm having a really fun time. You know what? I'll play one more game, and when I get home, I'll call her and let her know I'm running late. Okay? Because that's what a good boyfriend would do. And it's a good thing, but every time we were supposed to have a date, I kept finding myself. I remember sitting there like, okay, we're getting ready for another game and going, I'm so selfish. This whole time I've been choosing my own entertainment over her. I never thought of it that way. I always thought I was a good boyfriend because I at least called her to say I'm running about 10 minutes late, but I could have always been there on time. I just selfishly chose to play another game of basketball. And you're like, what does it matter? It's just a game of basketball. It's just 5 minutes. It's just 10 minutes. And you called, and we're approaching it the entire wrong way because I wasn't looking at that individual as, how can I serve you? And that's when I started to see that the problem wasn't these women that I was dating. The problem was actually me. And then for the sake of not hurting any other people, that's when I decided I'm done with dating. because it's not right for me to try to work these issues out while hurting a bunch of women. I don't know where you are. I mean, choose wisely. Seek clarity during this time. But if you're in a boat where you think it's just a small compromise, man, let God have his way and be willing to be submitted to him and say, you know what, I am not ready. I thought I was ready, but I see how selfish I am being, how controlling I am being. I see how I got major areas of flaw in me, and this is not right. And so I need to just step back and say, either we can't date anymore, or I need to say, you know what, we just got to be in a holding pattern. But be man enough or woman enough to address the issue as opposed to continuing on. Because doesn't fix anything. So choose very, very wisely. Let's pray.